If he chooses to nominate somebody else and asks me to go do something else, I will say, thank you very much. I love you, sir.
Republicans absolutely hate it when you accuse them of being in a cult that is led by Donald Trump, and they, in the cult, surround him and adulate him. They love him. They hate it when you talk about it, but they're not beating the allegation that it's true. Yesterday, the acting Attorney General at the Department of Justice, Todd Blanche, the man who is seemingly going to replace Pam Bondi, who was Donald Trump's personal criminal defense attorney, now leads the DOJ. Not cultish at all, not weird at all, not self-dealing at all. He gave a press conference. And wow, what a doozy it was. We'll get to the clip that you've probably already seen because I want to talk about it, where he is like, if Donald Trump gave me another job, I would be so happy. If he fired me, I would say, thank you, sir. If he put someone else in this position, oh my God, I would say, I love you. I love you. You love Donald Trump and you're not in a cult? Make it make sense. Watch this, and then let's talk about several of these elements. And I got several other clips that, again, not helping their case.
I love working for President Trump. It's the greatest honor of a lifetime. And if President Trump chooses to keep me as acting, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate me, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate somebody else and I go back to being the DAG, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate somebody else and asks me to go do something else, I will say, thank you very much. I love you, sir. So I don't have any goals or aspirations beyond that.
I don't have any goals or aspirations beyond that, other than my love and adoration and devotion to the dear leader, Donald Trump, who no man can challenge. Never in the history of the United States of America or any other functioning democracy have so many sycophants and bootlickers been put into extremely high positions of power, who simp, and their sycophancy is just disgusting. He can promote me, I'll be honored. He can fire me, I'll be honored because I love you, sir. It's not the most important thing that happened at the presser. Many questions were asked about the weaponization of the government, the fact that he is Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney, private personal attorney, who now leads the DOJ as the acting. He was asked here about how you're going to handle Donald Trump pressuring you to weaponize the department you now lead. How are you going to deal with that pressure? Notice, because he challenges the premise of just about every other question that was asked. Oh, I challenge the assumption. Well, there's some things baked in there you're trying to get to. Pushing back on every other question. He doesn't even challenge the very premise of this question, though. And that should tell you a lot. Watch this.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Attorney General. President Trump has made no secret of the fact that he wants to see his perceived political enemies prosecuted. So now that you're in this position, how are you going to balance that relentless pressure with this administration's promise to end the weaponization of this department?
Well, look, first of all, we have thousands of ongoing investigations and prosecutions going on in this country right now. And it is true that some of them involve men, women, and entities that the president in the past has had issues with and that believe should be investigated. That is his right, and indeed it is his duty to do that, meaning to lead this country. And so I do not view this as pressure. I do not view this as something that is going to keep me up at night, except to make sure that we are investigating every case that we have to the fullest extent of the law and using all the resources we can.
Why is it different now, Todd Blanche? There were hundreds and thousands of prosecutions going on during the Biden administration, but there was just a few that dealt with Trump, but that was weaponization. So the same excuse that was given before didn't hold up, but it does hold up now. because you're leading, because Donald Trump is the one weaponizing the government. Donald Trump is the one going after and can't even secure indictments, by the way. That's the other element of this. That's the other critical piece of this, is that they are weaponizing because even grand juries are saying, pump the brakes. Nope. This is not valid. This is not justice. This is weaponization. There is no evidence here. The old adage that you can indict a ham sandwich using our grand jury system really does not hold up when these cases are so terrible that even the ham sandwich cannot be indicted. They move into this other thing, and this is where he really does begin, as he did there, not challenging the premise. You'll see here in this next one that he does challenge the very basis of the question, and he's asked about, listen, if we have no idea why Pam Bondi is no longer the Attorney General of the United States, clearly it was based on performance, clearly it was based on something she did or didn't do. And if we don't know those reasons, how can you assure us that you're not going to make those same mistakes? And in it, after the question is asked, he challenges the assumptions that are baked into the question or whatever. Watch this and we will address it on the other side.
Yes.
Mr. Acting Attorney General, can you just expand on your comment that nobody has any idea why Ms. Bondi is no longer the Attorney General? It seems like it's kind of a problem if you don't know what it is the president wants you guys to be doing better.
No, that's an assumption that baked into your question that I don't know that it's true. I mean, the point is that I don't operate every day trying to second guess what President Trump or anybody else is thinking. I just operate every day on doing everything that I need to do to execute the president's agenda and priorities. And I'm not alone in that. I hope every single person that has the privilege to serve in this administration is doing exactly the same thing.
What's not true that's baked into the assumption of the question? Do we know? Do we secretly somehow know why Pam Bondi is no longer the Attorney General of the United States? Do we know? Or is their accuracy baked into the question? And further, if we do not know why she was fired, and we don't, there has been given no reason, how can you provide any assurances that you're not going to be making those same mistakes, angering Donald Trump? The problem is he knows. He's the one who set up Ghislaine Maxwell into her cushy environs right now. The not credibly accused, the convicted child trafficker now in a minimum security country club prison because she has information that could damage Donald Trump, giving secret interviews for hours. What do you know? What do you know? What do you know? Yeah. The other thing, and I really thought this was very telling, you should watch this presser. If you're a glutton for punishment like me, you should watch it. Or you could just rely upon the clips that I provide to you. He's asked specifically about, what order do I want to do this in? Because at one point, he's asked about the fraud, the alleged fraud of Kristi Noem, the $200 million for the commercial that was a no-bid contract. The company was just formed hours before the bid went out. Her spokesperson, Tricia McLaughlin's husband, got the contract for $200 million. A lot of people speculate that it's very possible that Kristi Noem absconded with some of that money. Maybe there's some offshore account and she's also enriching herself with the $200 million for the contract of the commercials that she made of her riding on horseback across the country, promoting her white supremacist organization. But he's asked about this and he dismisses it out of hand like, yeah, that's something you're writing about. That's not real fraud. We're not going to investigate that. And then the next question that I'm going to show you, I'll just spoiler alert here, he's begging for people, if you know about fraud, please tell the DOJ about fraud. We desperately want to prosecute those cases. Yet that's a political weaponization item. The thing with Kristi Noem, they don't want that. They don't want a light shown on their fraud, on their absolute stealing from the Treasury, looting of the United States government. Watch this, and then you'll get to see the spoiler alert.
Driving criminal investigations further?
I'm not going to talk about criminal investigation, what's driving it or not driving it. Go ahead.
Kristi Noem, there's been a lot of questions about the firm tied to Kristi Noem and the ads that came through that was over $200 million in taxpayer money. Is that something that would fall under the purview potentially of this new fraud unit?
Well, when you say there's been a lot of questions, you mean you all have decided to write a lot about it, hoping that it generates something. So I'm not talking about ongoing investigations. If, the new fraud division and what it will, the types of cases that it will encompass is pretty broad, but I'm not going to link it to some speculative idea or a question. Yeah.
You all have decided to write about something, hoping that it generates something. How would you know there's nothing there unless you've investigated? How will you know if there is something there unless you investigate? Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's personal criminal attorney. Because, again, we need to drill down on this point. Donald Trump is the president of the United States who was in desperate need of criminal defense. After all, he was convicted of 34 felonies, our convict president of the United States. So unwilling to prosecute that, unwilling to investigate that. Yet here, if you know about fraud, please tell us. If anybody knows about fraud, tell us. We want to know. And then the presser was over.
So as far as whether we would take a referral from the White House or take a referral from you even, yes. I mean, yes, if somebody knows about fraud, please tell us. And so if the president of our United States says, I have heard that there is ongoing fraud in Minneapolis, Minnesota, like any president before him, I hope that the Attorney General would absolutely say, yes, we'll investigate that. All right. I appreciate that, guys. So thank you.
So there will be no referral about Kristi Noem and the alleged fraud. There's some clear patterns of conflict of interest at the very least, but there's clear criminality. At least it raises to the level of wanting to look into it. But not for Todd Blanche, not for Donald Trump's personal criminal attorney, not for Donald Trump's hand-picked acting attorney general. Who knows if he will get the nod to try to put him as the full attorney general under the advice and consent of the United States Senate. But this is all just cult bullshit here. For somebody who's just ill-equipped to do this job. Loyalty to Donald Trump is the true test of someone's acumen. It doesn't matter if they're actually qualified or capable of doing the job. And the role of Attorney General isn't something to just scoff at. It's not something to just put a sycophant or a yes man or a brown noser, some other invective that you'd like to sling around about who and what Todd Blanche does for Donald Trump. You need to be qualified. You need to be educated. You need to be capable. You need to be skillful, adroit, if you will. And Todd Blanche is none of those things. His only capability is caressing gently Donald Trump and telling him how much he loves him. Weird and gross. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video on Facebook and on YouTube. And while you're on both those places, please make sure you follow and like the Facebook page and you subscribe on YouTube.
Do you think it's acceptable for the president to threaten to annihilate a civilization?
I think it's acceptable for the commander-in-chief to deal with these people in the best way that he can.
Is that a yes or is it a no?
Result.
Here I am again talking about Abby Phillips' show on CNN and Scott Jennings, not Todd Blanche, Scott Jennings. And yikes. I mean, you knew this was coming when Donald Trump absolutely backed away from his claim that he was going to exterminate a civilization in his True Social post yesterday. As a reminder, the exact quote of Donald Trump was, "A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again." And then invoking God bless at the end. Donald Trump vowed, promised, threatened a war crime under the Department of Defense Law of War Manual, committed a war crime in threatening and terrorizing the civilian population of Iran to exterminate their civilization. And Scott Jennings, a loyal Trump sycophant, he is a reliable bootlicker of Donald Trump, just caressing the undercarriage, just cannot get enough grundle butter in and around his mouth and lips from Donald Trump. He was asked about this threat to exterminate an entire civilization, 91 million people in Iran. And his answer, you will note, does not answer the question. Well, I believe that Donald Trump has the right. Just yes or no, is it right for a United States president to threaten to annihilate, to exterminate 91 million people? And he was asked not once, but twice from not one, but two different people on the panel.
We have to make it negative for Donald Trump.
But why can't you just acknowledge that what Donald Trump said this morning was abhorrent and that no president should ever threaten annihilating a civilization? Why can't you just acknowledge that?
Look, he's talking to them in the way he thinks he needs to talk to them.
Why can't you acknowledge that?
Because
that is something that no president of the United States should say.
Because I don't take orders from you, number one, and number two, I give him the space to negotiate with the Iranians the best way he knows how.
All right, well, let me just ask a final question, Scott, for the record. Do you think it's acceptable for the president to threaten to annihilate a civilization?
I think it's acceptable for the commander-in-chief to deal with these people in the best way that he can.
Is that a yes or is it a no?
Result.
Is that a yes or is it a no?
So that's a yes.
Is that a yes or a no?
I'm not going to second guess him.
So it's a yes.
He put out a statement. We now have a ceasefire. Okay. Those are the two things
I just wanted to ask for the record.
Yes.
That's a yes on your part.
Yeah.
We'll leave it there. Coming up next.
That's remarkable. Again, they're not beating the allegations of a cult at all, and they never will, acting like this. He is too afraid to say it is inappropriate for a president of the United States, up to and including Donald Trump, to threaten to exterminate an entire civilization of human beings. He can't even say, yeah, not great. His answer, I don't take orders from you. Nobody's ordering you to do anything, dipshit. They're asking you a specific question. Why can't you just acknowledge that what Donald Trump said was abhorrent and that no president should threaten to annihilate a civilization? It's not an order, it's a question. For as bold and aggressive as he appears on that stage, on that sound set, on that news set, he sure is a coward to Donald Trump. He sure is a supplicant, just a dutiful high priest in the cult of Donald Trump. I don't take orders from you, black lady, says Scott Jennings, who worked dutifully, again, to use the term, for Mitch McConnell, the man who never saw a Confederate flag he didn't want to jump in front of and pose for pictures. And then when Abby Phillip, to her credit, drills down and wants an answer to the actual question, he doubles down in his sycophancy. He doubles down in his cowardice, in his weakness. Do you think it's acceptable for the president to threaten to annihilate a civilization? I think it's acceptable for the commander-in-chief to deal with these people in the best way that he can. Even if it violates the Department of Defense law of war, measures of intimidation or terrorism against the civilian population are prohibited, including acts or threats of violence, the primary purpose of which is to spread terror among the civilian population. And if threatening to exterminate 1/10 billion people is not a threat intended to spread terror and fear in a civilian population, then that thing doesn't exist. This is a violation of the Geneva Convention, as we talked about yesterday, and the Department of Defense Law of War Manual, which I guess if we're giving Donald Trump all the credit that he doesn't deserve, how would he know about the Department of Defense Law of War Manual? After all, he is a 5-time draft-dodging coward and physical weakling who had sore feet and wasn't able to serve when his number was called during the Vietnam War. And then he proceeded, as he said on Howard Stern before, his personal Vietnam was avoiding sexually transmitted diseases from all the ladies he was banging, all the, I guess, working his way up to the porn stars that he would ultimately raw dog while his wife was at home with their newborn baby, Barron Trump. And yet, here is Scott Jennings doing the hard work of defending a threat, a war crime, to exterminate 90 million people, to erase their existence from planet Earth, using the military that is at his disposal, that apparently doesn't have much of a problem with carrying out the war crimes ordered by Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth. But Scott Jennings, who never served and doesn't understand what it takes, doesn't have what it takes, even if he did understand, he's here to defend the physical weakling and coward Donald Trump, who never served, but yet orders young men and women to their deaths in his war of choice against Iran. Yeah. We see you, Scott Jennings, you vile, sickening, putrid hypocrite. You liar, you servant of Donald Trump. Are you going to join Todd Blanche in expressing your devotion and love for the dear leader too? Is it just an honor to be in the presence, to be in an adjacent zip code to Donald Trump while you're over there in the CNN headquarters here in DC, but a mile and change from the White House? Is it just, it's rarefied air to share the same, as Donald Trump? Gross and weird and dangerous. Every single one of these people. What do you think, though? Look, I could be wrong about all of this. I grant you that. I am not perfect. As much as I would love to be, I am but human. If you have disagreements, you can let me know in the comments. Or if you agree, you can let me know in the comments. Facebook or YouTube, make sure you're liking and subscribing to the both of those pages on YouTube and Facebook. I would appreciate it very much. All of that engagement does go a long way to help extend and promote this channel and the show here. I would appreciate it very much. If you want to sound off telephonically via voicemail, you can call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com.
You don't get how the language works.
I get it if he's a real estate dealer. I don't get it when you're president of the United States with the inheritance
but you're more concerned about...
The right wing right now, including right-wing media, is working overtime to try to justify Donald Trump's threat to exterminate an entire civilization of people. 1/10 of a billion people, 91 million people who live in Iran. Again, I will share with you the quote that Donald Trump posted on True Social yesterday, that a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. A war crime. The threat itself, again, is a war crime. I'm not going to go through and read from the Department of Defense Law of War Manual. You could check out my videos yesterday or the one that preceded this, where I talked about it again. Yesterday, Khanna, the mild-mannered Khanna, who has been on this program multiple times, and we've talked specifically about the fact that he is a reaching across the aisle guy who wants to compromise and provide good governance in his view. I don't always agree with his tactics, but he is an easygoing, amenable kind of character. He's not a bomb thrower. He's not an Eric Swalwell or even a milquetoast Adam Schiff. He is absolutely just a middle of the road guy. I mean, not in his politics. He's a progressive, but I mean, in the way that he deals with these people who are political opponents, he is as fair and charitable. There's where we'll sit. We'll sit with that. He provides as much fairness and charity to the other side's arguments, even when it's not justified or warranted, he does so. And he was on yesterday with Martha MacCallum, Fox News, who is one of their straight news people. She's a news anchor. She's not an infotainment show host like Sean Hannity or Jesse Waters or Laura Ingraham or one of these other dipshits. She's like a Brett Baer, supposed to be the respectable, just we report, you decide side of the operation. But you would never guess it from these two clips I'm getting ready to show you in this brief appearance from Khanna, which ends up virtually being a screaming match between the two of them, with Martha MacCallum justifying tooth and nail, getting down in the dirt, trying to make some kind of a case for why it was A-OK for Donald Trump to threaten extermination of a civilization. We'll start with this, and this is how the interview began.
So as we get closer to this deadline, and you hear the pushback, and you're part of it there, I guess I would just ask you where the war crime is, and whether or not you think that Iran has been guilty of war crimes, killing almost 40,000 of their own people, gunning them down in the street.
Martha, obviously Iran is guilty of war crimes, but America is different. We don't go threatening genocide. We don't threaten to wipe civilizations off the face of the earth. That is what makes America different. The president doing this is destroying everything this country stands for. We're the good guys. We're the ones who defeated tyranny.
Let me ask you this. So, I mean, we've all been watching President Trump for a long time. Is that really what you see here? Or do you see this as a way to get Iran to open up the strait, to come to negotiations, and hopefully to have new leadership that won't oppress its people, new leadership that won't make children and women line up around energy sites, which is a Geneva Convention violation? You know, I think we need to look at the history of the way that President Trump negotiates these things and to see that, you know, unless you're very clear and you have a serious, you know, stick that you're holding over this situation, you're not likely to get anywhere.
Martha, you don't have to threaten genocide to get Iran to open up the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, we've lost the plot here. The president has lost the plot. The president went in to say that he wanted to free the Iranian people. Now he's talking about destroying 90 million people.
I was speaking with Nazimonian, and I've spoken with a lot of Iranian activists
and do they
who
not
want this.
They want him to threaten to wipe out 91 million people?
I think they understand what.
This is
I don't think anyone's talking about
this. Is not a New York real estate deal. He's the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Her argument is that the law does not apply to Donald Trump. The Geneva Convention does not apply to Donald Trump. The Department of Defense Law of War Manual does not apply to Donald Trump. International norms and laws don't apply to Donald Trump. He can threaten to exterminate a civilization, and that's just the way he communicates. Language works differently for him. She pushes back on the notion that it is wrong for us to threaten war crimes. In the threat is a war crime. That we're different. Yeah, Iran is bad. We've established that. The regime of Iran is terrible and dehumanizing. And they have also committed war crimes and sponsored terror. Yes, but that doesn't mean we should fight them the way they fight us. We are civilized, they would have you believe, even though we're led by war criminals, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth. Yeah, but they do it, so we should be able to do it. Very astute observation and analysis, Martha McCallum, straight news journalist. Just covering for Donald, just giving Donald Trump every excuse under the sun to do anything he wants, up to and including war crimes. Now, the exchange continued. It started to get a little heated there. It got more heated where it is virtually a screaming match where Khanna says to her as he gets ready to answer the question, he says, "You're fairly reasonable." Well, you know, Martha, let me ask you this. You know, you're fairly reasonable. I know that doesn't seem like much, but that is a bomb being dropped by Khanna because he is, as I described at the top of the video, at the top of the topic, he is a guy who is offering as much fairness and charity, even when it's not warranted or justified. And in fact, I think, and I've told him this much to his face, I think it's damaging when we continue to act like there's an old way of doing things that still exists today. My good friend across the aisle, oh yeah, you're fairly reasonable. Yeah, I understand your points. You can make some good points, but here's my position on the matter. We're past that. We are in war crimes territory now. We don't need to provide these people any benefit of the doubt, any fairness and charity relative to their arguments for the annihilation, the extermination of 90 million people. But that's what he does here. And it gets heated. Again, this is huge because of who we're dealing with in Khanna.
They all march in the streets, say death to America. What more evidence do you need?
You're fairly reasonable. Do you believe that it was not insulting and in violation of everything we believe in to threaten to wipe out 91 million Americans? Would Ronald Reagan have ever done that? Would any other American president have ever threatened to wipe out 91 million people? I don't think Reagan did that at the height of the Cold War.
I guess what
FDR probably didn't do that even when we were fighting Nazism.
What I'm looking at is...
No, but answer that question, Martha. Would FDR have said, let's just wipe out the German people?
I can easily answer your question. I mean, we know who tried to actually wipe out entire populations in World War II.
Yes,
we know
Hitler.
the kind of backbone and spine that it took on the part of the United States of America to end those tyrannies.
With morality.
But what I'm seeing is someone who is
Donald Trump has no morality.
I think you have to. I'm kind of surprised, actually, that people haven't, that you don't get how the language works.
I get it if he's a real estate dealer. I don't get it when you're president of the United States with the inheritance
but you're
of people
more concerned
who
about
scaled
the
cliffs of
language
Normandy
than the outcome.
No, I'm concerned about our values. I'm concerned that no American president would have done this. Do you think Ronald Reagan would have used this language?
No, because Ronald Reagan isn't President Trump.
You think Abraham
President
Lincoln
Trump
would have?
isn't FDR.
Do you
Abraham
think George
Lincoln.
Washington would have? Do you think he said, let's wipe out the British people? Donald Trump has compromised every moral standing we have as a nation. What makes America different?
You don't get how language works, she says? I think it's you, Martha, who doesn't understand how language works. Donald Trump did threaten to exterminate a civilization. Again, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. How are we not understanding language? How is the venerable Congressman Ro Khanna not understanding language and how it works? An entire civilization, the whole thing, not part of it, not a few members of it, all of it will die tonight, never to be brought back again. That's not a negotiating tactic. That is a threat of extermination. Maybe Donald Trump doesn't want to just create a white ethno-state, but a white planet. And here you are, Martha McCallum. Here you are defending it. Getting heated with a congressman that you are supposed to be interviewing for his answers. And instead, you're acting as a partisan, as a propagandist, as state media for Donald Trump, the dear leader who apparently you, like Todd Blanche, love. Disgusting. We see you. This is just another reason why Fox News ended up paying $787 million, nearly $1 billion, for their lies surrounding the 2020 election results, for their defamation of Dominion voting systems. They settled out of court for that amount, knowing that the actual verdict would probably have bankrupted them. And they're doing it again. They continue to do the same thing. They lie to the American people. They lie to MAGA. They lie in service to Donald Trump because they are not fair and balanced. They are not, we report, you decide. They are liars and propagandists. Defending, exterminating an entire civilization of people. Yeah. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video on YouTube or on Facebook. I would appreciate it very much. You can also call the voicemail line and leave me a brief voicemail, to which I will not reply. I get a lot of emails and voicemails recently too. Like, please text me back. I want to know that you're getting this. I get hundreds of voicemails and emails a day, hundreds and hundreds. There's no way that I can respond to each one. So don't take it personally. I just, there's only so many hours in the day. And when I'm not checking out from politics, I am working and I have no time to talk to hundreds and hundreds of people every single day. But I do listen to them, obviously, because I'm addressing something that is happening often in the emails and voicemails. I don't remember if I left the phone number, 714-576-4054, and email daily@dollemore.com.
Excuse me, why are you so rude? Just wait, I'm calling on people.
Thank you, Secretary Hegseth.
Pete Hegseth gave a press conference this morning that was as festooned, is that the word, where you have things attached to you? It was bedazzled with a lot of Christian nationalism. How about that? Listen, I don't know what's going on with Pete Hegseth. There's been a lot of reports lately that he secretly, that he and his pal put on disguises and went out to get hammered, breaking his pledge that he wasn't going to drink while being the Secretary of Defense. I don't know the veracity of those reports at all, but, was he drunk in this press conference? I mean, was Pete Hegseth hammered here? as he's giving all glory to God for the threats of exterminating an entire civilization and all of the combat operations. And the credit goes to the military, but all glory be to God for the death and destruction and the death of American troops, I guess. I mean, if God's getting glory, it can't just be for the positive stuff, right? It's got to also be for the death. Something to think about, Pete. Anyway, watch this first clip, and then we'll get to some other things that are really telling of some good journalism, especially asking about the danger to U.S. troops that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth are putting them in.
And to our Israeli allies, thank you for being a brave, capable, and willing ally on this battlefield. The rest of the world and the rest of our so-called allies saw what real capabilities look like. They should take some notes. Our troops, our American warriors, deserve the credit for this day. But God deserves all the glory. Tens of thousands of sorties, refuelings, and strikes carried out under the protection of divine providence. A massive effort with miraculous protection. Dude 44 Bravo spoke for all of us. God is good. The chairman will now provide an even deeper military detail on the historic success of Operation Epic Fury. Mr. Chairman.
God deserves all of the glory. Tens of thousands of strikes carried out under the protection of divine providence. Well, so God decided if all of the tens of thousands of strikes were carried out without incident, it's because of God. Well, then it would also be because of God that those 13 American soldiers were killed. You're going to be giving God the glory for that too, right, Pete? You're going to be giving God the glory for Iran having the ability to shoot down multiple planes out of the skies from a military that you claim had been obliterated, that any military capabilities of Iran had been just completely knocked out off the map. They had no power, no ability whatsoever. All glory be to God. So it's God. Pete Hegseth, you heard it here first, is blaming God for the death of 13 American service members. Because they were put at risk by Donald Trump. They were put at risk by Pete Hegseth and his rhetoric. The actions of the military under the command of Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, and also the rhetoric. And that was asked about, that specific question's asked by an ABC reporter, is do you think you're putting troops at risk? And of course, it's not a straight answer. It's ABC, of course, ABC, of course you're going to ask this question. Yeah. Rather than just, yeah, hey, listen, people are dying. People will likely continue to die. And you are making things worse, Pete Hegseth. And his answer does not inspire confidence.
You said earlier that the president chose mercy. But you yourself had said 3 weeks ago that we will give no quarter to Iranian troops. How do you correlate those two? And do you think that your comments may have put American troops at risk?
No. I try to be nice up here, but you did listen to what I said, right? I laid out the objectives. We believe we've accomplished them, and it's a historic military victory. And President Trump has the option as the commander-in-chief to compel an adversary to the table, which is precisely what he did. And at the end, he chose to say, you know what, I'd rather talk to you at the table than obliterate your capability to export oil and fund your terror regime. So he did make that choice. That was his choice. He was a president of peace, and he's been willing to make those really tough calls that the American people elected him to do. Nothing we've done, not a single thing we've done. This is a typical, of course, it's ABC. Not a single thing we've done has put an American troop in more of a harm's way. We've only set our troops up to harm Iranian military capabilities, which they've done to devastating fashion and to great success.
Notice the wiggle room in the language there. Not a single thing we've done has put American troops in more danger. Yeah, they're in danger. And you got them killed, but we didn't put them in any more danger than they would have been. Those are carefully chosen words. But Donald Trump, it is laughable, the assertion, the claim that Donald Trump, also a little wiggle room there, by the way, was the president of peace. Donald Trump was the president of peace, meaning past tense. So the president of peace is threatening to exterminate an entire civilization of people. Again, I know I'm reading this in every video. A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. Spoken like a true president of peace. War criminal, Donald Trump, the president of peace. And he was asked about this, and I left this part in. Someone is trying to ask a follow-up from their previous question, and he gets snarky with them. Don't be rude. Our dick, possibly drunk defense secretary. Don't be rude. I'm answering questions, he says, snarkily. Watch this.
Thank you, Secretary Hegseth.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Why are you so rude? Just wait. I'm calling on people.
Thank you, Secretary Hegseth. Yesterday in the President's Truth Social, he threatened to wipe out a civilization. That statement elicited a huge response in America. If Iran did not come to the table and make a deal yesterday by the deadline, was the President really prepared to wipe out Iran entirely?
Like I said, we had a target set locked and loaded of infrastructure, bridges, power plants. Remember, this is a terror regime. The military regime used all of these things for dual use to fund their military, to fund their terror campaigns. We had a lot of legitimate targets. They knew exactly the scope of what we were capable of. We hit some military targets on Karg, which is a bit of a signal. They can't defend it. And so Iran ultimately understood their ability, their future, to produce, to generate power, to fuel their terrorist regime was in our hands, was in President Trump's hands. That's why they came to the table. He ultimately said, we can take it all from you. Your ability to export energy will be taken away. And the United States military has the ability to strike those things with impunity. That type of threat is what brought them to the place where they effectively say, hey, okay, we want to cut this deal. Yes, right here.
Pete Hegseth is along for the ride. No crime too big, no war crime too small that he will endeavor to complete for Donald Trump. We had targets locked and loaded. Maximum lethality, maximum war crimes from this Department of Defense. And unfortunately, we have simps and sycophants and bootlickers and dishonorable members who wear the uniform, namely the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the unqualified, the less qualified than the previous chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who was a higher rank and had more experience, but he was black. And they can't have that. Not this white supremacist organization. Not this eugenics administration. Not this war crime, extermination of civilization administration. Anyway, what do you think? I'd love to hear from you if you have experience in military matters, if you served. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm right. You can comment below. And you can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com.
But this isn't over. We still have Cuba, Greenland, and Canada. Just kidding.
Listen, this has been this retreat from Donald Trump. And thankfully he did not put the United States in a position to be party to the kind of war crime that he was threatening, the crime of exterminating a civilization. That this will be the last time today, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. Thankfully, he was Taco Trump. Thankfully, he did back away from this threat, this war crime. The threat itself is a war crime. And to follow through on the extermination of an entire ethnicity, of an entire civilization, would have been the greatest crime, genocide in the history of the planet at the hands of Donald Trump. And Fox News and conservatives and Republicans are out there trying to make sense of this, trying to justify it. And even in Donald Trump's failure, they try to make it a win. Even when Donald Trump has humiliated himself, they're like, oh, but let me tell you, oh, yeah, this is bad for Democrats. I hate to tell you that, she says. I think that's what she says. This is actually bad news. I don't want to say it, but I'm going to tell you how this is bad for Democrats. So go ahead and watch this. Watch Laura Ingraham explain how Donald Trump's retreat from his threat of exterminating a civilization is bad for the Democratic Party.
Okay, so actually tonight's news is actually bad news for them. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it the way it is. They always underestimate Trump. And as for 2028 Van Halen, who we just saw, he has the charisma of a mollusk. So we were at the precipice here. We had to rewrite the script. Donald Trump continues to rewrite the political script. Democrats believe they finally had Trump and the entire MAGA movement in a box. But once again, the last laugh will be on them.
First of all, let me address the charisma of a mollusk. This Laura Ingraham from just the other day, signaling her obsequiousness for Donald Trump, signaling her bootlick nature, signaling how much she lusts for some kind of an intimate interaction with Donald Trump while imitating his jerk-off dance. And I'm not going to play, we're going to play the video, but we're going to mute the music that's in it because I don't want to have a copyright strike on my channel. We'll put what I believe to be more appropriate music to her dance. You're right, Laura. You have far more charisma than a mollusk. These people are sickening, shameless cowards. It is very weird to me, very strange to me that there is no shame or dignity in the entirety of the fibers of their being. They are just supplicants. They are just worshipers at the feet of Donald Trump, doing his jerk off. It's very weird. Very weird. Trying to up is down, right is wrong, evil is good with these people. It's remarkable to me. And also what she's doing here is reinforcing the cycle that whatever Donald Trump does, we'll just use tariffs. We don't even have to talk about the war here. Donald Trump does Liberation Day with his tariffs, the stock market tanks, and then he's like, oh, I'm going to reverse course on this. And then the stock market goes back up, and then he claims victory based on stopping the thing that did the damage in the first. It's just a cycle. Donald Trump creates a problem. Donald Trump recognizes the problem. Then Donald Trump reverses course on what started the problem in the first place, declares victory that he solved the problem, even though he's the one that started the problem in the first place. And then it's just a vicious cycle that goes around and around and around. And they're here to defend that position. They're here to forward that narrative as totally normal. Fox News was in high gear yesterday doing this very thing. I'm going to play this. This is a remarkable segment from Jesse Watters. And I try not to talk about Jesse Watters as much anymore because it pisses me off. But even at the end of this segment is right before he cuts to a former general. Keane, I think is his name. Jack Keane, I think is his name. And right before he cuts to the general, he makes a quip, and you'll hear the quip. I'm not going to play the interview with the general, but he has this quip about next up after we're done with Venezuela, and now that we're done with Iran, next up is Cuba and Greenland and Canada, and then wink, wink, just kidding, as though crimes against our allies are some kind of a fucking funny tee-hee moment for the sausage-armed Jesse Watters. Watch this.
Trump just got Iran to cry uncle. They've been calling him crazy for making threats, but guess the threats worked. The strait's on its way to being opened, and Iran's promising to stop firing missiles and drones. The next 24 hours will be the test. If oil tankers start sailing through, we're on our way to officially ending this and hitting the president's 6-week time frame. If they play games, back to bridge and power plant day. The mullahs should know better. Their economy's in a depression. Heavy industry like steel, petrochemicals, and their military-industrial complex have been obliterated. People were already taking to the streets during the last economic crisis, and now it's 10 times worse. All morning, we were peppering their crown jewel, Karg Island. That's something Iran can't afford to lose. And our B-52s are already on their way to theater today, but Iran had no choice. The New York Times is also reporting China begged the Iranians to take the deal, saying their economy couldn't take it anymore. The regime was backed into a corner, and the president believed that sending in soldiers to open up the strait and seize Karg wouldn't be wise and was a last resort. So what's next? 2 weeks of peace talks that could collapse at any point. And negotiations reportedly start Friday in Pakistan. The president's team committed to controlling the uranium. The regime's battered, their military, leadership, and their defense industrial base is basically gone. Many times, regimes collapse after the war. Iran could remain a failed rump state that violently struggles to control its population. Perhaps it's ripe for a revolution. Perhaps not. Perhaps never. The place is a mess. For us, oil prices right now cratering, and stock futures are through the roof. If a truce holds and the strait opens, the economy roars back, gas prices taper back off into the $2 range, hopefully by the fall. American deterrence is back. The world just witnessed an overwhelming display of military and technological superiority. But this isn't over. We still have Cuba, Greenland, and Canada. Just kidding.
Same thing, reinforcing the cycle of incompetence of Donald Trump. This is all part of the plan. This is all part of the plan. And threatening to exterminate a civilization was all part of the plan too. Donald Trump is playing 4D chess and you rubes are playing checkers. That's what they would have you believe. That Donald Trump, who can't stay awake during any meeting, even when it's ones where they're talking directly to him, that guy who can't pronounce he's now relegated to monosyllabic speech. He can't say words that are 3 syllables. He's rambling about the auto pen to children at Easter egg rolls. He's threatening to eradicate, to annihilate, to exterminate civilizations, but he is the one playing the 4D chess. Gotcha. And look, I don't know if it's just the cult mentality, if it's just for clicks, if it's just for cash, I don't know, or if they really are true believers. My guess is Jesse Waters isn't a true believer, that he just has no principles whatsoever. He is a shameless, dignity-free actor who will bend over and let Donald Trump have his way with him for the clicks. There's no integrity there whatsoever. Anyway, I don't want to ramble about it. Start pissing me off even more. What do you think? I welcome you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video. If that's on Facebook, fantastic. Make sure you're liking and following the Dollemore Daily on Facebook. If it's on YouTube, subscribe. It is free to do so, and it absolutely helps with the algorithm. Any engagement that you give to this content, whether that be a like or a share or a comment, all of that goes a long way towards supporting this channel. And if you'd like to support this work other than algorithmically, which is important, if you have $2 a month, you can become a channel member on YouTube. Click the join button on my channel and see what's involved. And for just $2 a month, you can do that. Support this work, help produce this work. You can also go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt and help support this work that way too. I love and appreciate you very much. I will see you next time. Until then, be genuine and take care of one another.